Hi, Boomhauer69 here, and today I'm going to show in this video what I would use as an emergency alternative backup heating source for when my main heating source simply goes out, and what I would use in the cold weather to keep nice and warm when I simply need to have heat and stuff to keep warm. What I use as an alternative emergency backup solution for when my main heating source simply goes out. So first of all, where I live inside a town, a village limit. And for my main heating source in the cold weather or winter time, the cooler cold weather when I need to heat my house, my main heating source is a natural gas furnace. That's what I have because I live in a town inside village limits where I have natural gas, and so my main heating source is a natural gas. But in the event if my furnace was to break down or simply a power outage in the middle of winter, because that has happened here in Michigan. I live in Michigan. It gets cold in the fall, winter time, and in the spring as well. In the beginning of spring, it can get cold. And so right now, we're transitioning from summer to fall and the colder weather. People are at this time are probably researching backup backup heating sources. Maybe, people are looking at wood stoves, different types of gas heaters and stuff for in the event when the main heating source simply goes out. They're probably doing some research and stuff, looking at alternatives, and that's why I'm making this video for those out there that are kind of doing their research about what they're looking for like a way to ideas to heat their home in the event that their main furnace or main heating source goes out, whether it's some sort of gas furnace, wood stove, whatever. And also for the people that are curious what I, Boomhauer69, would do in the event in an emergency situation where I had to use some sort of other heating source to try to keep warm in the cold weather and stuff. This right here is a RedStone convention heater. Round, I always call them a round kerosene heater, but this is what I use in the event of a situation where I can't use my main natural gas furnace. I would simply use this. This here is the kerosene that it uses. It uses K1 kerosene. You've probably seen these blue jugs, and they always have kerosene on them. This is actually a vintage kerosene jug that my father had for many, many years. It still works, so I continue to use it. I actually like this style of I guess you call it fuel can, more than the newer Fango ones, since the government put new regulations in the little dispenser hose spigots don't work very good and stuff, and they're kind of funky. I like the older style cans because they're more easier to refill and simply to also use when you're trying to fill up a heater and stuff. But this right here is the RedStone Kerosene Heater that I use to simply as an emergency backup heater for when my my natural gas furnace for some reason doesn't work, whether it broke down or power is out or something and I can't use my furnace. I would simply resort to this kerosene heater. This runs K1 kerosene. That's what they recommend. Here's the owner's manual and model. I bought this at Tractor Supply, and there's all the information about it. First of all, how I got to know about kerosene heaters is for many, many years, my father had a square, one of those, I call them a box kerosene heater, but they're actually known as a radiant kerosene heater. They're just a square kerosene heater. Actually, I have one down here that I'll show later on in the video, but I'm going to talk about this one, the convection round kerosene heater first. But my father had one for many, many years, because when I was a child growing up, I was about a toddler age, we used to have problems with our well water freezing up in the middle of winter, and so my father would bought a radiant box kerosene heater to help unthaw the pipes in the wintertime, unthaw the well that we had. I, for many years, lived in a single wide mobile home trailer, and next to this mobile home trailer there was this really old farmhouse that I lived next to, and down in this old farmhouse it had a well that we was connected to for quite a few years until we got a new well. This house had a well down in the basement, and every winter when it got super cold, the well would freeze up because this house didn't have no heat, and so my father would have to take his kerosene heater and simply use it to unthaw the pipes in the winter. And then plus, when it got cold out and in the cold weather and the power went out, my father would use some kerosene heaters as a backup heating source to heat the home when the power went out. And that's how I learned about these kerosene heaters, is simply through my father and watching him how to work it. That's how I got to know all these things. I know they also make propane heaters as well, but I don't own any propane heaters like those. I know they make those portable mister heaters that are real popular and stuff. I don't own any of those. I don't know a whole lot about those types of heaters. I always know more about kerosene heaters, and that's why when it came time for me to make the decision what to use for a backup emergency heating source, since I don't have a wood stove, because I simply can't afford a wood stove, I said to myself, I gotta have a alternative backup heating source for in the event my natural gas furnace goes out. That's why I went with the kerosene heaters versus like the propane Mr. Buddy heaters, because I know more about these and know how to safely operate one of these more than I do the propane heaters. And plus, kerosene is not as highly combustible like propane, where propane, if you're not careful, it could easily blow up and cause major problems, where kerosene heaters, where the kerosene fuel is not going to simply blow up big time like propane would and stuff. Excuse me for not being able to explain myself very good, but kerosene is still a flammable liquid, and yes, it can flame up, but not like what propane would do. Propane would obviously does a bigger boom than kerosene. So yeah, but that's how I learned about kerosene heaters, and watching my father use kerosene heaters for many years. That's how I learned how to safely run and operate one and stuff. Well, yeah. Well, this right here is the one that Tractor Supply sells, the RedStone. The reason why I went with a RedStone kerosene heater is the simple fact that when I was researching kerosene heaters to replace the one my father had for many years, because the one my father had for many years, it was just simply way too old to safely use, and it was rusted and corroded really bad. So I said, well, I need some sort of emergency backup heating source in the event I can't use my natural gas furnace. What should I do? I got to thinking about it. Well, I'll do what my father did. I'll go with kerosene, since I know more about kerosene than I did propane heaters. And so I made the decision, since I can't afford a wood stove, go with kerosene, since I know a lot about that. And I trashed my father's old kerosene heater. I discarded that, and then I did some research trying to find the best what would be the best heater to go with and stuff. And from all the research I done, I actually didn't realize that Tractor Supply actually sold kerosene heaters until one day I walked into the store and thought, yeah, I'll see what they have for heaters. And then I noticed, hey, they got kerosene heaters. So I went with this right here, the RedStone Kerosene Heaters, because I went online, I read the reviews, and out of all the kerosene heaters that I was looking at, this one had the best reviews, and I thought, well, this has got the best reviews. The positive is the next town over to the east of me and the next town over to the west of me, they both had Tractor Supply stores. If I ever need any parts or anything, like wicks and stuff, because these use a wick, I can easily get parts for them and stuff. Or if I have any questions, I'm guaranteed to go to any of these two Tractor Supply stores that are easily near me and get help or whatever if I have any issues with this. And so that's the main reason why I went with these RedStone Kerosene Heaters. And since there's all kinds of tons of Tractor Supply stores out there and stuff, you know, they're a common store and a big farm store and stuff, and well known. I noticed also there's also tons and tons of videos out there about these brand of kerosene heaters and stuff. Now, RedStone makes two kinds, which I'm going to show both in this video. They make a this one here, the conventional round kerosene heater. I always call these a round kerosene heater or a circle kerosene heater. And then they also make a box radiant kerosene heater. One of those that is just a big giant square and shoots some heat in one direction and stuff. And I always call those a box kerosene heater because they're kind of square shaped like a box. That's the reason why I call that. And then again, I always call these round because they're a big round circle shape, but the proper term is convection heater. The difference between a radiant box kerosene heater and a conventional is this one circle 360, and it will expand the heat out in multiple directions, where a box radiant kerosene heater will simply shoot the heat in one direction, wherever you have it pointed at, basically, and stuff. So now both of these heaters can be used indoors. That's one thing I like about them. I always make sure when I was looking at heaters to look for one that's actually rated for indoor use as well. But yeah, the only thing, I've had this for quite a few years. They still make both of these models. I'll put links down in the description for them. But yeah, this heater right here is what I decided to go with for in the event I have a power outage situation or some sort of situation where in the cold weather my main furnace won't work and it's going to take a few days before it can get back up and running. This right here is what I'm going to use in my house to keep warm and stuff, so I don't freeze and get sick and stuff. That's what I'm going to use this for and stuff. This is just for backup emergency use only. I mean, natural gas is my main source for heating, cooking, and this is just for backup heating and stuff. So yeah, but here when I got this one came with the wick already installed and came with an own-use manual. One thing I did is I bought an extra wick and stuff for this heater. I actually had when I first bought this, I actually bought two wicks, but the wick that came with this, I ended up swapping out for the extra one I had of these to put a fresh wick in it after I used the original wick that came with this. I used it up, and then I had to replace it. These are not like propane heaters where you just screw in the bottle and then you hit the button to ignite them and stuff. These require a wick inside them. And how you use these is this right here. I don't know how well you see that on camera, but where my finger's pointing, that's your gas cap. You simply unscrew the gas cap. You fill this up with water. Fill this up with kerosene, not water. Don't know why I said that, but you fill this up with kerosene. And it has these, some of these will come with the wick already installed, but if yours doesn't, the brand that you went with doesn't, then read the owner's manual, find some videos online, and it will explain how to install these wicks properly. These wicks right here, they're basically like a round circle, gold cone shaped wig. They're round circle wick made of cotton sometimes, and they just slide over a big old round metal cylinder inside the kerosene heater. And what you do is you fill the tank up with kerosene. Once you get these brand new from the store, you fill it up with kerosene. That's what these use right here. This kind of fuel, kerosene. This is actually an old style kerosene jug. They got newer fangled ones out, but this uses right here uses kerosene. This jug here is a 2.5 gallons kerosene jug, but usually you'll get a blue can of these, and you'll go to your local gas station where they sell kerosene and stuff, and you can simply purchase that. Most gas stations will sell kerosene. They'll sell a type of kerosene that will say with a capital K and then next to it the number 1, which is short for K1 kerosene 1. That's what they recommend burning in these. Years ago, they used to have another kind of kerosene that was had more of an odor to it and could cause more issues with carbon monoxide poisoning and stuff. And so the difference between the two kerosenes is K1 is more clean burning, and that's what they recommend using these. You can also go to Tractor Supply. I have over here off camera also aluminum can that has kerosene in it that I bought from Tractor Supply, and they also sell in clear plastic jugs K1 kerosene as well at the local Tractor Supply store where I got this. But you can most times usually go to practically any gas station around. They'll have away from the gas pumps and diesel pump off to one side a kerosene pump. Kerosene was for years ago, before natural gas propane became a thing, and kerosene was the back in like the 1800s and 1900s was one of the options for heating the home besides wood stoves and coal. Sometimes the old folks would even refer to kerosene as basically coal oil. When coal became popular, that's when kerosene kind of came on board as well. So back in the day when people didn't want to heat their home with wood or coal, they would use kerosene. Kerosene's been around a lot longer than propane or natural gas. And then when propane and natural gas came along, that's when people kind of went away from the coal stoves and kerosene and stuff. But yeah, but you simply fill this up when you get it brand new. That they will never come with kerosene already in them. You have to purchase the kerosene separate. Most times companies will add a wick with it. It'll come with a wick already installed. Usually this one did, but sometimes if they don't, the owner's manual will tell you what kind of wick to buy and stuff, and go from there. What I did was I looked at the model number on the box when I first bought this at Tractor Supply. When I was at the Tractor Supply, I looked for the model number, then I went over to where they had the kerosene wicks, then I looked down at this brand here. This is the brand, the only brand they had that I seen at the time, and then I saw that said, yep, RedStone, and I bought a couple of them and stuff. But what you do is, right here, the gas cap, you take your can, they usually will come with a siphon, one of them little red and white basically a straw with a pump on it that will allow you to make it easier to fill up your tanks and stuff. But if you don't have that, use a funnel, be careful, and you remove this cap, and that's where you fill up your kerosene at. And then when you get these brand new, what you want to do is look at if it has a fuel gauge, if your kerosene heater has a fuel gauge like this one does over here. I'll show you a close-up of that. But there's the fuel gauge on this one. And what that fuel gauge allows you to do to see how much gas, how much kerosene you need to add, and how much kerosene you need to add to it. And you just simply, what I would do is simply brand new, fill this right up to full. Then what you want to do is your wicks. You want to let your wick soak up, or as they call it, I've always called it saturate. Let the wick soak up some of the fuel for about an hour or so. They recommend about 60 minutes, 1 hour. Or fill up the tank full of kerosene, let the wick soak up for an hour. Because what happens is, if you don't let your wick soak up some of the kerosene fuel, what will happen is air bubbles and the air pockets can form inside the wick, where the wick, when it's lit, will not burn right and will burn unevenly and ruin your wick, where it burns up a lot faster, and then you have to get a whole brand new wick and stuff. So when you first get these, you gotta fill them up with kerosene. Make sure it has the wick already installed, or install the wick first, then fill it up with some kerosene, and then let it set for an hour or 1 hour. Let it set for one whole hour, or like I did with this one, because I was in no rush to use it. I just simply filled it up, let it set overnight, and let the kerosene, the wick soak up some of the kerosene to safely and probably burn it. And when you first get these, you want to burn these outside in a well-ventilated area to burn off any excess paint or any type of paint fumes, like any kind of heater you get brand new. You want to do the first burn in a well-ventilated area like this garage I'm in. When I first got it, I just set it on my schmat, lit it, had my garage door wide open, and allowed enough ventilation to burn off any like excess paint or chemicals that were on this heater and stuff. That's what you want to do when you first get these brand new and stuff with any heaters, or wood stove. But yeah, so that's what I did with this and stuff. And then to them when you first get it. And then what I recommend doing with these is, when this down here is your drip pan. That's for if you have any leaks or anything, or any kerosene leaks out of this, it will fall on this drip pan and not end up on the floor ruining your carpet or hard flooring. I recommend not putting these on any carpet surface, like a hardwood surface or some tile surface. Hard flooring is what I recommend doing. One thing I thought about doing with this for extra safety, which I never did, I plan on later on doing so, is getting one of those, what they call earth heath mats or whatever, those mats they use for wood stoves, those mats they put down, and then people set their wood stoves on top of when they install wood stoves in the house. Those safety heating, I guess, somewhat fire barrier little mats or whatever they put down for wood stoves and stuff when installing wood stoves. Those safety mats they have for wood stoves. I thought about getting one of those, and then in the event I can, for extra safety, have this heater on top of that, just in some weird event or somehow, just for extra safety and stuff. It's not needed, but it's just something that I plan on doing later on to just for a little more comfortability to protect my floors and stuff. But yeah, but always use these I recommend on a hard surface in a well ventilated, in a decent size room and stuff, not in a major not in like a small confined space, but in a well ventilated room. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher nearby, carbon monoxide detector there as well to detect carbon monoxide and stuff. One thing my father used to do, because he had the I call it the old style kerosene, the smelly kerosene. He would sometimes crack a window a little bit to help with ventilation and stuff. He would have it set up on a hard floor surface, kind of more near a little bit of a window to help with any fumes or any odors and stuff, and he'd have the window cracked a little bit to help with some fresh air flow. Some people even put on top of these sometimes, like the little for wood stove little tea kettles that you fill up with water, and they act like kind of like a humidifier or whatever. You can do that to help with airflow and stuff. But yeah. Now to simply operate this heater, what you do is you turn this knob right here, this black knob here. I'll show you the controls. These are the controls right here. You have your manual shut off. You have your wick adjuster. There's the fuel gauge, the fuel where you fill your kerosene at. The fuel cap, and that's on a chain so you don't lose it. But this is where you simply adjust the wick and basically your temperature, like your thermostat kind of thing. And when you want to start this, you turn it all the way to the maximum high, and then down here, this is old and it's been broken off, but there was a little plastic like button on the end of this metal piece that would allow you to ignite the automatic igniter. And this is your shut off for when you're done using it. Your manual shut off, and it will retract back your wick all the way down to low. That will automatically turn your wick off and stuff. But that manual shut off, that's how you shut it off. It will turn the wick all the way down and put out the flame on the wick and stuff. Now, these kerosene heaters, you can light them a few different ways. You can simply light them using matches or the built-in electric igniter, or you can even use a standard Bic lighter if you want to. On the back of this one, here, I'll show you. On the back of this one here, this is where the actual battery compartment is. This is where you install your batteries. This one takes some C-size batteries to use the electric igniter. Now my father's Radiant box kerosene heater, that had a same feature on it, but it was so old that it didn't work, so you'd always have to use matches or a lighter to manually light. What I recommend doing, if you're gonna use if you're gonna manually light your kerosene heater, it's best to use a long matches. You know, get you some nice some extra long matches to light the wick. But how you manually light the wick is you turn this knob all the way to high. You strike your match, and then inside here there's a little round metal cone. My father always called it a honeycomb, which I don't know the proper term is, or I forget what they actually properly call this, but it's a little round cone, and you strike the match, and you lift that little cone up inside there to light the stove. I'll show that better on the radiant box kerosene here, but you lift up the little cone to manually light the wick and stuff. That's how you do that. What this cone is, it's just a round metal cylinder with a bunch of little holes in it. And when your wick is lit, your kerosene is burning and stuff, this metal cone will glow orange and get hot and will help produce heat. And when that gets hotter, then this whole heater will get hotter and will produce heat. And then that heat up at the top here through these little holes, I'll show you. These little holes here, these little slits right here, the heat will escape out of there and cause the room you use it in to get hot. But what that cone inside there does, it glows orange. It will slowly start growing a nice bright orange glow, and will cause more heat, and the heat will cause the heater itself to heat up, and then you'll have heat coming out up at the top here, and then it will fill the room that you're in with some nice warm heat. And then while this is on, they also have a little window there that will show you that you can look at to watch your wick and stuff. This right here, this little door, you open that up, and what you do sometimes is when you first start the heater, or simply to manually light this, you would open this door, lift up that little cone to manually light it, and then this cone has a little round, like little spring attached to it, and that's like a little handle that you can, when it's not hot, you can kind of grab that, and then you shake it back and forth, side to side. You shake it side to side, right? One thing I always used to do is take a really long metal screwdriver like this, and I would stick it in here while it's hot, and I'd shake this side to side to help the cone get more hotter and stuff. That creates kind of friction and to help heat it up better and stuff. Now, the reason why they have this metal cage around kerosene heaters is when this is warm, when this black part is nice and hot, you don't want to touch that, you'll burn yourself. And this cage acts like a protection, so if you accidentally bump up against it, you're not going to get burned and stuff. And one thing you always want to do is this is the carrying handle. They always come with the carrying handle to move it around. You never want to move this around when it's on. You always want to make sure it's off when moving it around. And you always want to make sure your handle here is in the downwards position, so when you're ready to, when you're done using it and you're ready to put it away, you don't worry about burning your hand, because the top part of this is where the heat escapes from. So if this is in this position right here, what will happen is when it's on, this will get hot, where if you touch it with your bare hands, you will eventually burn yourself. I recommend when using one of these, have some oven mitts nearby and stuff to help with that and stuff, because even sometimes in the downwards position, that could possibly get warm, the handle, and and potentially burn you. So always have like some little oven mitt or something to carry this when you're done using it. I recommend when you're done using it, let it completely cool down for a really, really long time before actually grabbing it. You know, let it cool down for about maybe an hour or so and then grab it. But yeah, you always want to put the handle down. But that's what this cage is for, is to protect somebody from getting burned, from touching this black part when it's on and getting burned. Some people would, even in a emergency situation, someone put a pan on here and tried to cook. These are not designed for cooking. These are only designed for heating purposes only. The only time I would even think about cooking on this is in a major emergency situation. Maybe it would if you was really, really careful, you know, and you didn't do anything stupid, but I would not recommend it at all. I would, for backup emergency uses, I would suggest something else. Like me, I have a butane little one burner stove that's designed for cooking, so I would use that instead of trying to cook on this and stuff. But in a pinch, you probably could if you was really, really careful, but it's not recommended for that. It's only recommended for heating purposes only, so I would not recommend trying to cook on this because it's not designed for that. It's just designed to help you heat up a room and stuff to try to stay nice and warm. But yeah, that's how you use it. You simply press this button right here, which the black little plastic button is broken to do the automatic igniting, and then to manually light it, you would go inside here and lift up this little cone to light it and stuff. I'll actually show you how to manually light it and how to use the electric. Make best of my abilities here. I'll see if I can't do this without getting in the way of the camera. But yeah, I'm using just cheapy diamond matches. These are the longest matches as I got. I recommend when lighting this, use the longest matches as you can buy and have because it'll make it a lot easier than trying to use some short matches. Okay, there we go. Now, hopefully this time the match will stay lit. Lift up on it. There we go. We got her manually lit. Took a few tries because the matches I'm using are those cheap diamond matches and they're not very, very long. Now what you want to do is, when you first start this up, like I talked about before, you want to go around, and I always used to just kind of spin this around side to side. Now as this cone heats up, that little handle, you won't be able to touch it. Like right now, it's getting pretty warm, so you want to have like a really long nice metal screwdriver, you know, one that you kind of don't care about, or something, you know, or a long metal rod, and you want to adjust your width to whatever setting you want it on, high, medium, or low. One thing you want to do is you want to adjust your wick just properly so it will evenly burn. If you have your wick way too high, eventually what will happen is you'll start seeing kind of black smoke come puffing out, and that's letting you know that your wick is way too high and you need to adjust your wick down to an even thing. And eventually what will happen is the kerosene will start, and it will become kind of a bluish flame. Well, yeah, what I do here is I just kind of move this side to side a little bit to help kind of get that cone to glow orange. You don't gotta really do that too much. I'll show that more on the box kerosene heater. You don't really gotta do that much, but I'll show you a close-up. But yeah, like this is what I'm doing. Move that side to side, and that will cause the cone to help it get a more orange and help heat up the cone and stuff. And because your goal is to get that cone inside there glowing a nice orangish color. Once it starts glowing nice and orange, that's when you know that there's heat coming out. Like I can feel heat right now, and that's how the kerosene heater builds up enough BTUs heat to radiant to heat up the room. Once that starts glowing orange, matter of fact, I'll shut this off. That's how you shut the stove off when you're done using it. And after you're done using it, the cone inside there will start going back to its normal color. But when that cone is nice bright orange and you got flame, that's when you know your kerosene heater is on. But when you're not adjusting that cone, you always want to make sure that little door is shut. You don't gotta do that. You can just adjust your wick to whatever you probably gotta have it set at, and it will automatically heat up eventually to where it'll be nice and a little orange. But my father used to do that. He would move it kind of side to side to help get the cone to heat up a little more quicker and cause friction and help the metal get hot. My dad always called them a honeycomb because they got all these little round holes that allows them oxygen and airflow and stuff. And it kind of reminded him like a honeycomb, like what bees make and stuff. Well, that's how you manually light your kerosene heater. Is you just kind of take your screwdriver or whatever and just lightly lift up on that. Make sure your wick is all the way adjusted to the highest setting possible for lighting. Now I'll show you how to do it electronically. Now electronically, this would normally have a little black plastic button down here. This little metal rod would have a little black plastic button, but due to user error, me using steel toe boots and stuff to light this, I would turn the knob and then I take my steel toe boot and lightly tap that little plastic button. It broke off. But you would push, but it would have normally a little plastic piece on the end of this metal rod, and you push that in. Actually, let me show you what the door opened. And all this electric igniter is, it's just basically an electric lighter that uses batteries. Now you cannot plug this into electric or anyway. If you want to use the electric igniter on this model anyways, you gotta use C-size batteries or whatever batteries your kerosene heater takes. This one you cannot plug it in, like you can't plug in an extension cord to light it or anything. You have to have batteries for it. But yeah, right down here is that rod I was talking about. And you push that in, and it will lift up that honeycomb and then expose a little electric heater. And then that's how you start it electronically if you're not going to use matches or a lighter. Now to shut it off, here's the manual shut off. And you press that, and that will turn your wick inside there all the way down to completely down and snuff out your flame. And that will snuff out the flame on the wick and stuff, where it will no longer be able to, the heater will be off and will not be burning the wick or burning any of the fuel. But one thing is, this has all kinds of warning labels on it. Make sure when you get these to read the owner's manual of how to properly operate the kerosene heater and read all warning labels on any kind of heating device you use. One thing I like about this is Tractor Supply has the manuals online, so if I ever lose this, I can download a copy from online and be able to simply to run this if I ever need to grab any parts information. They do still sell this model on their website. I will put a link in the description for it. But yeah, that's about it, I'd say, on all this. But again, this is over here is where your fuel gauge is, which this one has E for empty, F for full, and then over here is where you add your fuel, where the fuel cap filler is, where you fill up the fuel. I like how this has a chain on it, so you can't lose your fuel cap. Never ever run these without the fuel cap on. Always make sure the fuel cap is on and it's securely locked before using this. When using this, always make sure when you first get it, brand new, make sure you fill it up. Wait an hour, let the wick the wick soak up some of the kerosene before using it. Wait about an hour, or do like what I did. Filled it up, went to bed, and then the next day, if I had to use it, I turned it on to simply burn off any extra paint or that was on it. That's another thing you want to do before using this indoors. Use it take it outside, or like me, I had it in my garage here, had my garage door wide open, and I burn off any excess paint or anything. But here's a close-up of the wick, what it looks like. Matter of fact, I will take this out of the plastic and show you all kind of better what the wick looks like. Make sure the wick that you buy is one that will actually work with the model kerosene heater. That's what I did here. Matter of fact, this actually came from Tractor Supply, and when I was buying this, I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna need some wicks. So, because this came with a wick already installed, but I wanted extra wicks on hand, so I went and looked at the ones it had, looked at what it said on the box, model number, everything, and then I looked down their wick and make sure it was the one. Like this here is a RedStone RS 235. That's what it says right there. I'll show you better on the owner's manual, but that's the model right there. And this it will work with some kind of a variety of different ones. It shows right here what all it'll work for. But here's what the wick looks like. This is a brand new, never been opened, never been used, I should say. But this is what your wick's going to look like, brand spanking new. You do want to be careful on the inside of these, because some of these wicks will have like little metal sharp teeth that help on the inside to clamp onto your cylinder. And that it will tell you usually. Yep. And this tells you all about how to properly replace your wick and stuff. If you don't know how to replace your wick, seek somebody that knows how to do it, or if you know you're handy, get online, look up on the internet how to replace some wicks and stuff. But this talks about wick replacement, and what you need to do. But yeah, all these wicks is just a big old cotton thing, a big old round cotton thing that just goes on the inside of a metal cylinder on the inside, and it like that, and it will, and then the bottom part here will soak up your kerosene. As it's burning, it will suck kerosene up in it. That's why it's important to wait an hour before using one of these, because if you don't, then what happens is air pockets get up inside here and air bubbles will form, and will cause your wick not to burn right, and can even possibly damage your heater and cause any malfunction and stuff. Well, there's the inside. Well, yeah, this top part right here is where the match or automatic, I always call it automatic igniter, electronic igniter will light this part here. And what will happen is, when this is in a circle formation, in here, let me kind of put my arm on. But when it's in a circle formation, in a circle, it will light all the way around and will continue to burn evenly all the way around. If you have this properly set up, you got to have this on a nice flat level surface, so that way your wick will also evenly light and stuff. So always make sure when you're using these, use these on a flat level surface, because you can also ruin your wick if it's not on proper level ground. See if I can put this back in the bag. And usually, after so many burns, they recommend replacing the wick. I forget after how many burns you should replace a wick. What I would suggest doing is, this one I know is in good shape, but just to play it safe, what I suggest doing, if you're going to use one of these, you have it in storage for a long time, and you use the wick quite a bit, I would suggest putting every season, putting a brand new wick in, just to play it extra safe. But yeah, these types of heaters are not like propane heaters where they don't require a wick. These require a wick to simply run and use. And again, there's pause, so y'all can pause that and read that. Yeah, these take a wick. Simply what happens is, when you fill it up with kerosene and you light the wick, the wick will simply slowly act like a vacuum and suck up kerosene, which will allow it to continuously burn. If you don't put kerosene in these and you just light the wick and you don't got no fuel in there, you're just going to burn up the wick and you won't have a working heater and you'll freeze and stuff. So I'll get online and I'll read from Tractor Supply's website the details about it, product details as they call it, and give you all the specifics on it. It says, beat the beat the chill with the help of the RedStone 23,500 BTU convection kerosene heater. Whether you're using this heater for supplemental heat in the garage or barn, or you're using it in emergency use, using it as an emergency heat source, it's adjustable settings and 23,500 BTUs. That's how many BTUs it has. 23,500 BTUs of energy are sure to keep you comfortable. The kerosene heater is a portable and comes with a wick installed. Some don't even come with a wick at all, and some don't even come with them installed. This one, it did just that. The kerosene heater is portable, comes with a wick installed, a manual siphon pump, which I don't know where my siphon pump is currently at right now. I'd have to dig around for it in order to show you, but I couldn't find it in time. Pump and batteries for the automatic ignition. The heater operates up to 12 hours on 1.9 gallons of kerosene heater. I don't know if that's true or not. I never ran this for 12 hours straight on it, because I never had to. I guess if I had to, I'd find out the hard way, because usually when I used this in a power outage situation, my power wasn't out for very long where I didn't have to do that. But it claims 12 hours on 1.9 gallons of kerosene, suitable for large indoor areas up to 1,000 square feet, such as areas with closed doors, windows, like workshops, tool sheds, small barns, and bedrooms. You can even use this in the bedrooms and stuff. What I always done is I just set this up in my dining room area, my big old dining room area when I had to, and to try to stay warm. For additional information on this product, please see all product document sections for all downloadable user manuals, installation guides, brochures, and warranty, etc., etc. Heater operates up to 12 hours on 1.9 gallons of kerosene. Uses K1 kerosene only. I mentioned why before, because K1 is more cleaning and it's odorless. Unless you still get some odor, but it's a lot more odorless than the other style. Comes with a wick installed, a manual siphon, pump, and batteries for automatic ignition, igniter. Heated panels uses natural air current to gradually warm up the enclosed spaces. The 23,500 BTUs of heating energy, suitable for extra large indoor areas up to 1,000 square feet, such as areas with closed doors, windows, workshops, tool sheds, small barns, and bedrooms. Comes in handy as an excellent emergency heating source. That's what I use it for, backup heating source. Provides 360 degrees of heat to quickly warm a space up. Portable heater is easy to move around the home. Adjustable heat setting and push button start for convenient operation. Safety features include tip over safety shutoff, safety grills, and bottom drip tray, which is this right here, this little round metal circle tray. The dimensions of the kerosene heater is 25.5 inches in height, 18.12 in diameter, and 18.12 in width, and comes with a 2-year warranty, which I had this for so long that the warranty is no longer warranted. But yeah, this also has the tip feature. That's where if you accidentally knock this over on its side, it will hurry up and shut the heater right off, where it will sense, hey, I'm knocked over, time to shut off. That's what that's for. When using these, again, make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector, and a fire extinguisher, or my father, he sometimes would just have a big old giant bucket of 5-gallon water to hurry up and if something was to happen to douse out when he had his. Now, the reason why I went with this for like my main indoor heating source is because it's a round one, and it will cause the heat to expand fully outward, whereas the box kerosene radiant heater will cause the airflow to just shoot in one direction, where this will spread it out 360. Like I said, it's round circle, so it will fan out and stuff. The little slots up at the top is where the heat escapes and will warm up a room faster and stuff. The reason why my father years ago, like I talked about before, the reason why he went with a box kerosene heater, because he needed a heater where the heat would be directed in one spot instead of, because if he would have tried to use this to unthaw the pipes in the well room, it would have not worked very good. Whereas the box radiant kerosene heater he had, that would work better, because that would shoot the heat in one direction, which I will show you all that. Now, this right here is a radiant kerosene heater, or as I like to call it, a box kerosene heater. This one is made by RedStone as well, bought in from the same Tractor Supply store. This one I use out in the garage and stuff, but this is kind of like my father's box kerosene heater. The only difference is my father's box kerosene heater, that was a very old, different brand kerosene heater that was no longer made and stuff. So to kind of, I guess they replaced that one. This is the one I went with. I actually bought the round kerosene heater, the convention round kerosene heater first, and then this one later on for just simply to use out in the garage for a little bit of heat. This does the same thing. It has all the same. You basically start the same. The only thing difference I'll show you, and that's the controls. There's your this is to turn it on and turn it off and adjust your temperature, and then this is your automatic shut off. There's your manual shut off, as they call it here. But to start this, you would simply push down on that all the way down to where it says ignite if you're using the electric battery operated igniter, and then you would of course adjust your wick accordingly, and then to high, low, and then if you want to, let's say you got this on and you want to shut it off, you just press that in and it will put that all the way in the off position. Now to manually light the pilot on this, what you do is you lift up on this little metal grate here. This is like the cage on this one. This is designed to protect you from accidentally getting burned and stuff on this, getting and touching this part when it's on. This right here is the cone. The only difference between the one in the round kerosene heater and this cone is the size difference and stuff. This is obviously more tall and small, but that's why my father called it a honeycomb, because it's got little holes and it looks like something like a bee would put honey in and stuff. And there's the little handle spring that would allow you to move this side to side when you're trying to warm up the honeycomb. I will show this glowing better because you'll get a better view of what this is supposed to look like when it's lit and stuff. Here's the bottom. I forget what they actually properly call these. I just call them a honeycomb, but I'll show you what the wick looks like here when it's in the upwards position. But there's your wick and what that looks like on the box radiant kerosene heater when it's in high mode and it's ready to be used. Looks like that wick's been kind of a little bit misused. Now the reason why I can't show you on the round convention kerosene heater how the wick is on that, because you have to take that all apart and it would take too long for me to unscrew everything and show you. That's why I'm using this one here for more better demonstration purposes. But yeah, when you're not using it, you just hit the manual shut off. But we'll put the cone back in here. Now this is glass, so you always want to be careful for not break that, or you won't have a working heater. Now, how to simply, before we start this, how you and how this closes. It's got little tabs up at the top here and bottom, and you just simply lift up, and then there's a little hole over here on the bottom that slides that and locks that little grate in place. This has a handle right here to carry it, and it's also got handles on the side. And on the back, there's where you put your batteries to use your your automatic, your electric lighter igniter on here. Now, right here where it says fuel level, that's where you see how much fuel is inside the tank. To access the fuel tank, to fill it up, you pull up on this little trap door here, and it will tell you warning K1 kerosene only, and caution. So it will explain everything. Caution: always read your warning labels and manuals before operating this. And then this has got on the fuel tank inside here, it's got a handle, and you lift up on that handle. This is quite heavy because it's got kerosene in it. But here's what the tank looks like. These box radiant kerosene heaters, they have a removable tank. One thing you want to be careful of is when these box kerosene heaters get ordered, they will tendency to leak out on the bottom there, leak out fuel. But that's where your fuel, that's your fuel cap. That's where you unscrew it to simply fill up your fuel. One time when I was a kid, I think my dad one time didn't have this very screwed on very tightly, and he leaked out fuel, and he was kind of mad and was a cussing and a fussing because he didn't screw the cap on tight. But that's your cap, and you remove that to release to fill up this with kerosene. And then when it's inside the kerosene heater, this little thing right here in the middle of that cap will push down and will slowly release kerosene into the heater. And there's a more close-up of your fuel gauge to let you know how much kerosene is in your tank. And you always want your fuel cap there. You want the handle here facing upwards, which is real easy to tell, facing upwards, and your little fuel cap there facing downwards. And there's only one way this can go into the kerosene heater. And how you tell which way is which is you want this facing outwards, where this right here, you want your fuel gauge, the fuel gauge here on this, you want it facing outwards, where it's like this. See how the top top is designed? There's only one way that this can work. So, and then like so, you put that right down in there. And then when you had removed the tank to refill it, whatever, always make sure to put it back in the proper position. And then this little door, you want to put that down before operating the heater. And just like the other one, when you get this brand new, you want to first wait about an hour or so to let the wick soak up some of the kerosene. And then after you let it kind of, I call it saturate and or as the old timers call it, soften up. Once you let the wick saturate right for about an hour, then you want to, in a well-ventilated area, outside, or like me, in a well-ventilated garage, you want to do your first heating burn in a well-ventilated area or outside to burn off any excess paint or anything. Now, to start this by electric, you just push this all the way down until it adjusts. Now, once you let off the electric igniter, it automatically puts it in high setting, in high mode. And then when you're ready, you just simply adjust your wick to medium to low setting, whatever one you gotta have it on. And then what I always do is take my screwdriver here and just go back and forth. Now this is smoking a little bit, so that tells me I gotta adjust my wick, because when these are shooting out black smoke, that means, hey, your wick is too high, you need to make it lower, Yeah. And then what will happen is while this is heating up, this little honeycomb inside here will eventually start turning to a orangish color. Now my father used to do this. He would move it side to side, the little honeycomb a little bit, you know, not very hard. He would just lightly side to side to kind of help it get a little more heat on it. But eventually that will get nice and warm. Will glow a nice orangish color. Once that glows a nice orangey color, that tells you that the heater is actually heating up. Now the reason why they have this shiny mirrored chrome metal backing is so that way when the heat on these bounce off, it will hit that shiny metal and push it one direction. These are great for if you gotta have the heat going one direction instead of 360 everywhere, where the round kerosene heaters are good for in the center of a room and will shoot the heat all over the place, where these will shoot the heat one direction. So I'll turn this all the way to the max and try to quickly get this to glow a little orange as it's doing right now. Now the only thing is running these completely high all the time is you'll eventually burn your wick a lot faster, so you want to adjust your wick just right so it will evenly burn and not much too many and not, you know, burn up as fast. That's one thing you gotta be careful with these is burning the wicks too high. You can burn up your wicks faster and stuff, and you always want to make sure you have appropriate amount of kerosene in it. But as you can see, this cone is starting to get orange. Let me give you a close-up. As you can see, notice how that's starting to glow orange, that little metal cone, and the heat is slowly rising up. That's what happens on these kerosene heaters when it's producing heat. That's what it's supposed to do, is start to glow orange and stuff when it's producing heat. I can, matter of fact, feel heat right now. But that's what your cone inside your heaters are supposed to do. That's what it's supposed to do on the round kerosene heater and on the radiant. And then when you are done using this heater and you want to shut it off, you're completely done, the push button here that says manual shut off, you just push on that and it will instantly extinguish the flame and will shut the heater off. Like with any heater, you want to let it completely cool down before you start moving it around or anything, so that way you don't have anything hazardous happen and stuff. I always let these completely cool down. When I'm out in the garage here and I'm using this, when I'm done using it, I'll sit and watch it for a little bit and make sure it's completely cooled down, and then I will put it away to where I store it when I'm done using it and stuff. Usually I just leave it on this table, on this level table here and stuff. But yeah, you always want to use these on a level, flat level surface, so that way you don't have any issues with the wick not burning right or have any issues where it could potentially cause a major fire issue and burn something down and stuff. But that's how it is. I'll read the product description on the Radiant box kerosene heater. Here, let's go here and read the description on this one. And yes, you can still get this one off from Tractor Supply as well. I'll read the product details on it. Beat the chills with the help of the RedStone 10,000 BTU Radiant Kerosene Heater. So this has less BTUs. That's a good thing if you're somebody that don't need a whole lot of BTUs to heat your home with. 10,000 BTU portable Radiant Kerosene Heater. Whether you're using the heater for supplement heat in a garage or barn or using that as an emergency heat source. Its adjustable settings and 10,000 BTUs of energy are sure to keep you comfortable. The kerosene heater is portable and comes with a wick installed, a manual siphon pump, and 4C batteries for automatic ignition. The heater operates up to 14 hours on 1.2 gallons of gas, 2 gallons of kerosene, suitable for medium indoor areas and up to 400 square feet, such as workbenches, garages, barn space. Nice. And for additional information on this product, please see the product documents sections for all the downloadable user manuals, installation guides, brochures, and warranty statements. Heater operates up to 14 hours on 1.2 gallons of gas, 2 gallons of kerosene, again, and uses K1 only, so you also want to only burn K1 kerosene only. Comes with a wick installed, a manual siphon pump, and 4C batteries, automatic ignition. Glowing element works like a sun to reflect heat onto nearby objects. The 10,000 BTUs of heating energy is suitable for medium indoor areas up to 400 square feet, such as workbenches, garages, barn spaces, especially areas with air leaks and drafts. Comes in handy as an excellent emergency heating source built with stay cool housing comfort and safety. The portable heater is easy to move around the home, adjustable heat setting, and push button start for convenient operations. Safety features include tip over safety shutoff, safety grill, and bottom drip tray, which is right here. That's what this small flat metal piece is. And dimensions of the kerosene heater is 21 inches in height and 18.5 in width and 11.75 in diameter. Also 2-year warranty when you buy these. And the wicks are the same as the round kerosene heater. It just might be a little bit smaller in size. But yeah, this one, now the round kerosene heater has a removable drip pan. This one, if I remember right, I don't think has a removable drip pan. But yeah, that's how they work. And here, this has the shiny metal piece here, and what happens is heat will bounce onto this, and then it will bounce it back, kind of like those how Mylar emergency blankets work. You know, those little tin foil blankets you wrap around yourself, and your body heat bounces off from your body gives off heat, and then it bounces on the Mylar foil blanket, and then bounces it back onto you. It kind of works like that, where the heater will give off heat, and on the shiny mirrored metal finish, it will bounce onto that, and then it will hit it, and then it will bounce it like a ball into the direction that you have this pointed in. That's why my father's one there. I got a hole on the floor here, so that's why I almost tripped. But yeah, that's why my father bought years ago a Radiant box kerosene heater, because he needed the heat to be in one direction and stuff, and so that's why he went at the time with a Radiant kerosene heater. Now, he always said if he had to do it kind of like all over again, and he didn't need a kerosene heater to unthaw a well and stuff, he would have went with a round kerosene heater for indoor use and stuff. Because the round kerosene heaters are better for if you need to heat up a room or something, and you don't need the heat going in one direction. You don't care if the heat goes all over the place. The round convection kerosene heaters are perfect for that. And these ones are perfect if you want to direct the heat in a certain position and you want to use the kerosene fuel as your main heating source. These both are for heating purposes only. They're not recommended for cooking, although you could in an emergency situation. You could, like the round kerosene heater, you could, if you had to, you could set a pot of beans or something on there. If you absolutely had to, I wouldn't recommend it. And personally, in my emergency situation, I'm not too worried about that being an issue. If the power went out in my area, I have a natural gas stove where I would just light the cooktop burner and just roast me a hot dog or cook me something in the pan on a regular stove. I also have a butane one burner stove where if for some reason I didn't have natural gas, I could use my one burner butane stove and cook with that, where I wouldn't need to use these kerosene heaters for cooking. I would only have to use these for heating purposes, and that's what you should do. They're not recommending for cooking on or trying to do any cooking. Yes, you could easily put a hot dog on a poker stick and hold it up to the heater and cook your hot dog, but that could be a little dangerous, and it's definitely not recommended. And I'm not recommending it, but if you're in that situation and that's all you can do and you gotta eat to survive, do what you gotta do. But there's other things out there. There's a store in Ohio called Lehman's. I forget how to pronounce it. Lingham's or Lehman's. I'm not very good at pronouncing the name. They sell actual stoves that run on kerosene that you can use to cook on and stuff. They actually make a range stove that actually runs off kerosene, where you fill it up with kerosene. You can cook with it, you can bake with it. Then they also make it's just a little stove top without an oven feature that will allow you to cook on. And I'll put links down in the description for those two. But and they also sell, I think, radiant and box radiant kerosene heaters, and also convection kerosene heaters as well. They're a store that's based in Ohio, near the Amish. They're like a hardware store that's I guess they kind of like a Tractor Supply. It's a hardware store kind of geared towards the off-grid preppers and Amish community and stuff, where they sell those cook stoves. Now, obviously, Tractor Supply doesn't sell those. They only sell just these RedStone Kerosene Heaters and stuff, but I'll put links in the description for everything. Fair warning, those cooking kerosenes, range stoves, those they're low pricey. They're over $1,000, where these, for about $200, you can get you one of these for whatever you need. What I recommend doing is I obviously bought a round one and a convention round kerosene heater and a box radiant kerosene heater, because I obviously needed both of them. But my suggestion, if look at what your needs are, what are you going to be using the heater for and stuff, like what's your intentions? Do you need the heat going in one direction, or do you need to heat up a pretty good sized room? Then if you need to heat up a room, say your power goes out and you're a family and you ain't got no other way to heat your home, you don't have a generator to run your main heating source, and you're using kerosene as your backup heating source. What do you need? As you're gonna trying to heat up a whole room, the round kerosene heater, the round convection kerosene heater is what you're gonna want to go with. Now, if you're somebody that just wants to sit in the chair and have the heat directed onto you, or maybe you're using this to maybe unthaw pipes or something, maybe you had some issue with something needing to be unthawed and you need the heat in one direction, then I would suggest going with this right here. One thing I recommend doing, and I did this, is when you first buy these, even though these ones come with a wick already installed and stuff, get you extra wicks. Buy like 2 or 3. I bought 2. This is my last one. I had to buy a couple more, but because in the round kerosene heater, I used that quite a bit where I had to put a new wick in it. So I recommend getting you one of these round kerosene. Get you a couple of these wicks. Go out and buy you the appropriate fuel jug. You know, don't be buying a red gas can, mixing some kerosene in it, because you know you might make the mistake of accidentally putting the wrong kind of fuel in. So always use the proper, appropriate, recommended can for kerosene. In America, they use blue fuel cans for kerosene. This is an older can that my father had for many, many years and is long gone discontinued. So get you a new one. Also, Tractor Supply, they sell in the big aluminum cans, decent sized aluminum cans. Off camera, I got one over here. Matter of fact, I'll show you. Well, yeah, where that hand truck is, and matter of fact, there's the hand pump siphon that you would use to siphon kerosene into your fuel tank of the heater. But yeah, that big old round can, aluminum gray can there, that's a can that Tractor Supply sells for kerosene. That's K1 kerosene. That's why it has the blue labeling on it. They also sell K1 kerosene in small like plastic jugs as well. But yeah, always make sure to get you one of these. This is what I use when I gotta go to the gas station to buy kerosene. Most gas stations away from the petroleum, gas, and diesel pumps, they'll have one side off to one side somewhere a pump that says in a capital K1 and the word kerosene. And most fuel jugs that are kerosene will say what they're for. Like this one says kerosene on it, and usually they're blue, but always. And I've always taken this down to the local gas station down the block for me. The closest one to me is a Speedway. They have K1 kerosene, and that's the jug I would use to fill up my kerosene. To fill up kerosene in if I needed to purchase some kerosene for the winter or whatever. Well, yeah, always make sure you have enough kerosene on hand for the event of you needing to use one of these for whatever reason. Make sure you have enough kerosene fuel on hand for using these. Do not use any other fuels in these, or you will ruin the heater and possibly burn down the structure you have them in, or personally burn yourself. You know, because obviously if you put Coleman lantern fluid in here, petroleum gas, or diesel fuel, you could possibly blow up and burn yourself. If you put gas like Coleman lantern fluid in here, or regular unleaded gas in one of these heaters, and then you went to light it, it's gonna blow up and it's gonna kill you and stuff, and set your house on fire or whatever structure you're using it in. So make sure you only put K1 kerosene in there. The reason why they recommend K1 kerosene, because it's more clean burning and it's odorless. Well, odorless than the other style of kerosene, which is more, I know it's harder to find. I forget what they call the other kind of kerosene, but I always call it the old style kerosene. But the old style kerosene used to have dyes in it, and it was had more of an odor to it, and could potentially cause more carbon monoxide poisoning if you wasn't careful and stuff. One thing I would do in a power outage situation is I would probably have a window crack to here, like my father used to do when he would burn kerosene heaters when the power went out. Because that's what he did a lot when we no longer had any issues with our well system freezing up. Because that's why my father bought a box kerosene heater, is because years ago living next to this old abandoned house that had the well down in the basement of it. My father had to, and it had no heat in it. My father would always have to, in the wintertime, unthaw the water, the well, to have it so we could have running water. And so he would always, that's what he used the radiant box kerosene heater at first. And then after that, when we just had like simply a standard power outage in the cold weather, then he would bring it indoors. Then he'd bring the heater indoors, use it to keep nice and warm, keep the heat, and he would always have it in the kitchen on a hard surface, not on the carpet, but on the hard floor surface of the house. Or a lot of times my father would get two cinder blocks and make sure they were evenly level, and he would set the heater on top of the cinder blocks, and he would always have a window open, just a crack to kind of help circulate the air and stuff, and help with any carbon monoxide buildup or anything and stuff, and help with them to cut down on the odor as well and stuff. Even with the new kind of kerosene, you still roughly get an issue with odor, so a little bit. Usually when you shut these off, you'll get that kind of kerosene smell, and sometimes when you first start them up and stuff, that's when you usually get the odor. But once it starts burning and operating, that's when you won't have that issue of kerosene odor. But once you shut it off, like I did here now, I kind of have a little bit of a kerosene odor smell because this was running, so keep that in mind as well. But I'm in a well-ventilated garage, so I ain't worried about carbon monoxide buildup or anything. But with any heater, you want to make sure to have a carbon monoxide detector. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher nearby. My father always had nearby a nice big bucket of water or a fire extinguisher in case in the event something malfunctioned on here, he could hurry up and put it out. What he would most likely be doing if in the event, when he was alive, if his heater would have malfunctioned, he would have been hurrying up, grabbing it and tossing it out in the snow, and then be an unhappy camper. Wouldn't be a happy camper then. I know how he was. He would hurry up and figure a way to pick it up, hurry up and throw it out the door. He'd be doing that, yelling at me and my brother, open that door fast, and throwing it outside. But yeah, and always make sure to read your manuals and everything as well. Yeah, one thing I always do is these matches right here. These are cheapy diamond matches. I always have a big old bag of matches around, or a lighter to simply light this. One trick you could probably do is get you like a candle. Get a candle if you a really long candle, and if you did it safely, you could potentially light one of these with a candle if you did it right. But you do run the risk of hot wax dripping onto the wick and causing some issues there. So you may not want to do that, but I imagine if you did it a certain way, you'd probably be all right. But my highly recommendation is to for heating these. That's actually why I have this little funnel here, for when I need a funnel to fill up the tanks. My highly recommendation is get you some of the really long matches. I'll show you here. I got two kinds of matches. When needing to use a match to light your kerosene heaters, for whatever reason, say your electric lighter on your kerosene heater doesn't work, because I usually make them super cheap. Make sure to have long matches. And get you some better quality matches. Don't do what I did, bought a bunch of cheap diamond matches, but get you some of the nice super long matches, so that way you can safely light the kerosene heater and stuff. In a pinch, a regular Zippo lighter or Bic lighter will work, but but I would recommend just using matches, or get you a really long stick. Go outside, find the nearest tree, look for a down branch, and get your nice little hot coal on the end of the stick, and go that route if you had to. But yeah, but these are great for when you're living off grid and stuff, and you off grid or in situations you have no power, where you can use these without any power, as long as you have kerosene and you have some good wicks and stuff that you can use these to heat your home and stuff, as long as you have a place nearby for kerosene. To get kerosene, that's all you mainly need is wicks and kerosene. So if you live in an area where you can easily get kerosene and stuff, this would be a good alternative for backup emergency purposes. Or if you simply want to use them full time, you can use them full time, like people do with wood stoves and natural gas furnace. Me, I just use these mostly for, in the event the power goes out, I can't run my natural gas furnace, then I resort to these bad boys for my backup heating source. I do plan on sometime looking into getting a wood stove, and then therefore a wood stove is going to be my main backup heating source, and then these will be the backup to that for when I don't have enough wood, and I will use these. But as of right now, these are my only source for alternative heating, for in the event my furnace doesn't work, whether it's a power outage situation or it simply breaks down and I can't get a repairman out fast enough. This is what I'm going with. Also, like I said before, don't try to cook on these. You can if it's an absolute emergency, but I do not recommend it, and even the manufacturers, they probably don't recommend it. So again, make sure you read everything. But yeah, I think I covered about everything. If you like this sort of content, give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Comment your thoughts below on what you thought. Was this a good video, bad video, whatever. I hope this explains everything. I just did this video for people that are doing research on different types of heating sources and stuff. You're somebody that's looking to invest in a backup emergency heating source to your main heating source that you normally use. You want a secondary heating source in case your main heating source doesn't work or whatever, or you're just curious about kerosene heaters, or you're just curious what Boomhauer 69 uses for backup emergency heat and stuff. That's why I made this video. Don't forget to share this video with everyone you know, because that's going to help me, Boomhauer 69, in growing my YouTube channel and simply reaching my goals. And by you also hitting that subscribe button, that's going to help me out as well. I hope you all have a good day, and thank you for watching Boomhauer 69's YouTube channel.